Voluntary benefits, in my opinion, are only going to continue to accelerate. We can do things like level funded premium that looks, smells, tastes, feels like a fully insured plan. Have a practice group that is now PEO specific. Similar personal lines have traditionally been outside the purview of employers. So late last year, we launched something called NFP Connect. By expanding the repertoire of tools that you have as a producer, really rounds you out as a producer and separates the good from the great.
Everyone, welcome back to the March edition of Broker Newsletter. We're here with Brooks Finnegan over at NFP. And Brooks, I have to ask before we even get into this, you have to explain where we are.
Beautiful backdrop, Mike, and thank you so much for having me. Great to be with everybody. We are on the 19th floor of NFP's downtown Boston office, which we love to bring clients to, prospects, and great vendors like yourself.
Which we clearly like to come to as well. So Brooks, honestly, thank you for agreeing to do this. I was hoping you could give us a little bit of background about yourself, and then we could jump into some questions that I have about you personally, NFP, how you're really see this business going, in what direction, where you're seeing opportunities.
Sure, happy to answer all of the above. So I was born and raised in Boston, just as a little bit of quick background on myself. I started my career in management consulting, where I think it was a great battlefield to learn creative problem solving and critical thinking. I pivoted for the insurance industry into employee benefits, which I find to be the most intellectually curious area of the insurance business. Now, I've since expanded into multiple areas in addition to employee benefits, such as executive benefits, commercial property and casualty, retirement, and private client solutions. I think by expanding the repertoire of tools that you have as a producer really rounds you out as a producer and separates the good from the great.
Having that arm of being able to have the executive benefit conversation, the P&C background that I know you also have, and really being able to provide a 360 approach to your clients. Can you kind of build on that and go down that rabbit hole a little bit?
Sure. So we affectionately refer to it, or I affectionately refer to it, as one throat to choke service. Maybe a little harsh, but I think it captures really the essence of what we're trying to do with our clients. I want to be the first call from both a client and prospect when they're thinking about anything insurance related. We want our clients to be focused on building world-class operations. We want them to be driving revenue. We of course want them to be managing the expense side of their equation, and of course we want them to be thinking about their employees. But we want that first call to be to myself, whether it's an employee benefits opportunity, whether it's a retirement question, whether they have a personal situation like an auto claim. I want to be that first point of escalation for them, whether I can help them with some over-the-shoulder advice from a service perspective, or whether we would be the beneficiary of a potential sale down the road.
The whole Simon Sinek approach of why people do what they do, I have to ask you, what is your why, and why do you do what you do?
Sure. So why do I do what I do? So we've put our employer groups into the unenviable position in the United States of being both great operators and healthcare experts. It's really unfair. I would suggest to you that there are maybe other models globally that might better accommodate, but here in the US, that's the position that most employers find themselves in. Further to that, employers also find themselves in the position that employee benefits has now become the second largest line item after payroll for most services-based organizations. So when I wake up in the morning, and the nightmares that I have when I go to bed are, how do I tackle the biggest challenges that my employers are thinking about? And I would suggest to you that one of the biggest challenges is their second largest line item. So that furthers me to do my very best to manage the cost basis, to bring great solutions to play, how employers can manage their retention and the recruiting and the productivity of their employee base. All of those are taken together and hopefully alleviate some of that burden that the employers do think about.
what is it that NFP allows you to do on a day-to-day basis that other agencies might not allow?
Great question. So first and foremost, NFP has accumulated size and scale that is incredibly impressive and allows us some leverage in the marketplace, first and foremost. We're now the 5th largest broker by global benefits revenue. We operate globally. We operate, of course, in every 50 state, and we can handle every industry type, from small group to large group. There is nothing that I, as a producer, have to say no to, and that really empowers me to have conversations with any size group. But most importantly, and we'll put the size and scale of NFP aside, the consultants that I work with every day are by far the most fantastic, expertised, capable consultants that I've ever worked with in my 15-year career. That's really what separates us. We have leadership in each of our verticals that I can lean on for questions. In that one throat to choke service model that I mentioned, I can quickly share what that issue is with that leadership, and I know it's going to be handled to the best of their ability, ultimately to bring a great holistic solution to the client.
I don't know the right way to ask this, but I heard a story about a client of yours in Connecticut that resonates with me on a different level and will likely resonate with a lot of people on a different level. Can you touch on that story a little bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's a proud story. Thankfully, had a happy ending, and I'd like to say that we don't have to do this as often as we do, but this was one of the situations that turned out very well. This was a client of mine whose son was suffering from seizures. And if you are a parent like I am, thinking about my daughter having a health issue that I don't know how to solve, or I don't have the wherewithal to solve, chokes me up. And in this situation, we were able to do a big favor for an executive at this client that was the right thing to do. And when you feel like something is the right thing to do, and you have the tool set in our industry to do it, you go to war. So we were able to take a decline from a particular Connecticut insurer, a health insurer, who was denying a special medication that the doctors squarely believed would be a good solution. It was a cannabis-based formulation. And we took that to the Division of Insurance in Connecticut. And after a lengthy appeal process, lodging our arguments, we were able to overturn the Connecticut insurer's declination. And we were able to get the son the medication that he needed. So it was a very, very proud moment. The son is doing great. We didn't champion it any more than it needed to the insured themselves. But they took that story and socialized it amongst their management team, and got some kudos from the HR group privately that we really did an exceptional job. So it's a very proud story, and thank you for asking me about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like more people need those types of stories. And I honestly think that's what sets you apart from most of the people that I work with. To kind of wrap things up, where are you seeing this industry going in the future, next 5 years, 10 years? Where are you seeing the opportunity?
Great. So a couple of areas that I think are really going to be moonshots that we want to lean into. So voluntary benefits has been a hot area, double-digit growth area for arguably 10, 15 years now. Voluntary benefits, in my opinion, are only going to continue to accelerate. And the reason why is it's a true win-win for the employer and the employee. The employer can use the size of their organization to render group discounts that aren't available to the employee on an individual basis in the individual marketplace, while also giving the optic that they are providing generosity to their employee population, with the asterisk that, of course, the employee is paying 100% of the premium. So the employer can be seen as the generous matriarch that they are, They are providing the aggregated group discount to the employee, where the employee wouldn't be able to get that pricing. But now the employee is picking up the cost, which the employer doesn't have to necessarily afford, because their focus is oftentimes on the medical side of the house. So I think voluntary benefits are going to continue to be a tool that are used. I think you're going to see them done on a very strategic basis with better communication, potentially mid-year open enrollments, and just a continual flow of new product development, where you've seen pet insurance and others like that. I think you're going to see some really innovative products come to market in the next few years as well.
So can you talk about some of the opportunities based on the different size segments that you're seeing, depending on the client size, where you're seeing those opportunities in those different marketplaces? Sure,
thank you for asking that, because that is important, and there are different solution groups for each of those segments. So let's talk about a state like Massachusetts, where we have 3 underwriting classes. We've got large group, call it a mid group, and then we have small group. So for the large group cases, some of the differences in solutions that we would bring are going to be creative funding strategies. We're going to be doing contribution modeling. We're going to be doing plan design strategies. We're going to be doing remarketings between TPAs, potential carve-outs for PBMs. There's a host of solutions that we can bring to the table that involve wholly creative approaches. The large group segment allows us to be very, very creative, and that's probably the most fun part of my job. In the mid-market, where you have traditionally fully insured groups, call it 51 to 99, you may have a hybrid approach. So you may have some groups that are fully insured, but that want to dip their toe into self-insurance, and we have product to do that, which is wonderful. We can do things like level funded premium that looks, smells, tastes, feels like a fully insured plan, where they're paying the same premium amounts every month, and at the end of the year there's a reconciliation. If they had a great year, they can participate in their good claims experience. If they didn't, then there is no penalization into the next year. So there's a hybrid approach that you can take with some of those mid-market groups. In the small group, where we're seeing a lot of the focus now is in the professional employer organization market, the PEO market. We really like the PEO market, and if I'm going to be honest with you, we're probably a little bit reactionary versus the PEOs that saw this maybe 10 years ago. But we are moving very, very quickly into this marketplace, and in fact we have a practice group that is now PEO specific. Similar to our approach with the carrier market, where we are agnostic to vendors, one of the great things about being a broker as opposed to an agent is that I work for my client, and then together we go into the marketplace and find the best solution. I'm not beholden to any carrier. I'm not beholden to any vendor. We want the best solution at the right time. We take that same approach with PEOs. So we've got a cadre of 10 to 12 PEOs. There's not a one-size-fits-all PEO for any particular organization. Some have better fits for others. And what we'll do is we'll scorecard those PEOs. We will work with the employer through implementation, and then a lot of the service needs going forward will be on that PEO. We want to stay close to the organization, however, because there are other opportunities as a producer that you can wrap around the PEO post-implementation. Things like commercial property and casualty. Some PEOs may offer retirement, some may not, so there's an opportunity there. And then ultimately, Mike, there's going to be a transition for a group that is growing from that small group segment into the larger underwriting segments. There's going to be carve-out opportunities where we're going to start to carve out the medical, we're going to carve out the workers' comp, we're going to put a benefits administration platform in place. So as long as you stay close to your customers, and great producers do that, there's going to be an opportunity through the entire life cycle of that organization.
So essentially growing with your client as they grow.
Exactly.
So Brooks, one of the reasons I'm in this industry, and the true opportunity I saw when I joined On Mutual of Omaha, is the realistic fact that the individual insurance agent isn't knocking on the door anymore. So knowing that employees are turning to their employers more and more this day and age to find their own financial security and financial well-being, are there any resources that NFP is currently offering that's unique and different to the marketplace to help employers really be that point of contact, which inevitably they are now, of being that offering that financial wellness to their employees?
We've noticed a deficiency in the marketplace, Mike, where personal lines have traditionally been outside the purview of employers. So employers will provide the core benefits, medical, dental, vision. They'll provide the non-core benefits, short-term disability, long-term disability, life, AD&D. But where we've seen a deficiency is really bringing the personal lines, which are things that employees are thinking about on a day-to-day basis. Their homeowners, their auto, their pet insurance, and other long-tail personal lines products that your employees are buying anyway. So late last year, we launched something called NFP Connect, which is a white-labeled turnkey solution that employers can offer to their employees on a branded basis, where the employee can then go in and has a one-stop shop to purchase all of those products that I just mentioned. It's another way for the employer to carry water for their employees without having the employee have to scatter and find out where to get the financial planning solutions that you mentioned.
Can you kind of breach that topic of how you're using the relationships you've built with the carriers you trust, the internal relationships you have to provide that additional touch to a client that a normal employee benefits broker might not necessarily be bringing on a day-to-day basis?
Sure, and I think this expands a little bit on your earlier question too. There's so much noise in our industry. There are a plethora of opportunities from elder care or fertility benefits or new fitness packages. There is just so much noise in our business that complements at times some of the core value proposition of a medical and ancillary program, that really where our value comes is cutting through that noise. And the way that we cut through that noise is educating ourselves, scorecarding vendors where appropriate, but then leaning on old school, traditional, long-term partnerships with fabulous vendors like Mutual of Omaha.
A quick value pitch to anyone that was considering making a jump to NFP on that consultant base. Can you talk on that at all?
I would be happy to talk on that because we cannot hire fast enough, and we would welcome more consultants at every step of their career, from early analysts coming right out of school to seasoned commercial lines managers. This is such an exciting industry. I remember in college coming out and trying to figure out, just like we all do, what do I go into? Where do I build my career? And financial services always attracted me, but I think the all-stars, the superstars, always gravitated towards the sexier industries like private equity or venture capital or investment banking. And for some reason, the insurance industry is never on people's radar, and I don't understand why. For a lot of the reasons I've already expressed, that these are the big concerns, the big challenges for employer groups is employee benefit spend, their risk management. How do I manage my liability? How do I think about my liability? These are critical factors that if I was coming out of school and I wanted to do something that was purposeful and purpose-driven, insurance industry is where I would go. So, as I said earlier, we would love to look at every resume or person that would be interested in working with NFP, and I'd be happy to personally shepherd that introduction.
Awesome. Well, Brooks, thank you again. Stay tuned. Next month, we have more to come. And Brooks, thank you again. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thanks, Mike.